What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another video / podcast, depending on where you're watching or listening. So I thought I would share my story with you guys. A lot of you already know it because most of you that follow this channel have been following me on the other channel and podcast throughout the years. But I want to share my story in HVAC, and it's kind of my life story since my kids have been born, particularly my son, my firstborn. So, starting off with me, I grew up in this industry with my father. My father's been in this business for over 40 years. My sisters grew up in it. They worked in the office. I worked in the field. I started off in the scrap yard when I was like 12 years old, man, during the summer. So my dad used to, he worked for somebody, and then him and his best friend that he met at one of the places that they worked started their own company. It was a plumbing, heating, and air company. And I worked there. My sisters worked there. And my dad is also a plumber. And a lot of people don't know this, but I do have a plumbing background. I'm not going to sit here and call myself a plumber, but I do have a plumbing background. I know quite a bit about plumbing. Again, I'm not calling myself a plumber because there's a lot that I don't know, but I do know a lot about it. I haven't kept up with the new stuff or anything, but I don't do plumbing work in my business. I don't claim to be a plumber, but I do know a good bit about it. I tried plumbing, but I didn't like it. I always liked air conditioning much, much better. So I worked there, and then in 2010, my dad and his business partner busted up. And I'm not going to get into specifics, but my dad's partner was doing some bad things behind my dad's back, and that's as much as I'm going to talk as I'm going to say about it. And I caught wind of it, and my dad knew something was going on, but I kind of brought it to his attention, and then he started digging, and yeah, so we'll leave it at that. So in 2010, we left there, and my dad and I partnered up. And it was me, my father, my mom was still living at the time, and my wife. My mom and my wife took care of the office. In 2013, in March, coming up, it'd be 10 years in March this year, my mother suddenly passed away. At the very young age of 53 years old. And that kind of rocked us, but, we had to keep pushing forward. In 2013, my son was born. No, I'm sorry, 2014. 2014, my son was born. Almost a year to the day that my mom died. And as time went on, and then my daughter was born in 2015. My kids are only like 18 months apart. Well, as a couple years started going by, we noticed that our daughter was progressing in life, more than our son was, and our son was older. So we knew something wasn't right. So we took him to the doctor, and, they do these tests, test their motor skills and this and that, and he didn't do very good. So we took him to an autistic specialist in New Orleans and found out that he was severely autistic. He's not high functioning or anything. I mean, he's severely autistic. He's nonverbal. He's going on 9 years old. He'll be 9 years old in March, and he's still nonverbal. and still not fully potty trained. So where we were living in Alexandria, Louisiana, where I had the business with my father, there was no resources for autistic children. They had one little program where he could go like 2 or 3 days a week for like 30 minutes to an hour in the afternoon. And the lady in New Orleans said that's not enough for him. He needs a place where he can go all day, every day and get ABA therapy. I'm not really sure what ABA stands for, but I can't remember, but it's therapy and for autistic, people. And I said, well, what are we supposed to do? And she goes, well, have y'all ever considered, leaving Alexandria? And, my wife and I had talked about leaving Alexandria, but we never did because my life was there, the business, and everything. So it was never really seriously talked about. We would kind of talk about it and joke about it. Man, I'd like to get out of here, and but now it was pretty much we didn't have a choice. We had to get out of there. So Lafayette was always a place that I wanted to live. So in 2018, we moved to Lafayette, and we got him in a program. It was okay. It still wasn't the best, but it was okay. About a year later, there was this supposedly great program in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So we up and left Lafayette. So let me backtrack a little bit. We moved to Lafayette in 2018. I go to work for somebody, okay, which is really hard for me because I'm used to doing my own thing. We put our son in this program, and it's, like I said, it's okay. It's not really everything we wanted for him, but it's okay. It's better than what was in Alexandria. About a year later, there's supposed to be this awesome program in Baton Rouge. So we drive down to Baton Rouge one day during the week, and I take a day off of work, and we go talk to these people, and they're like, well, there's a waiting list, but you have to live here to even be on the waiting list. We should be able to get him in 6 months. Okay, so me and the wife go home, we talk about it, and we said, hey, it's for him. We got to get him the best. So we move again down to Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I go to work for somebody over there. I secured a job before we left. And we get him on the waiting list. We lived there for about 6 months. 6 months go by. We still haven't heard from these people. And we go up there to talk to them, and they're like, look, we're going to be honest with y'all. He's not even close to getting in. So my wife and I both hated living in Baton Rouge. We didn't live in Baton Rouge. We lived in a town right outside of Baton Rouge called Denham Springs. And we both hated it there. I like Baton Rouge. I like to go there for LSU games, football games, baseball games and stuff, and, to go hang out. It's a fun place. It's a fun town, but living there, oh, my God, living there was horrible. So we hated it. And they told us that, they told us when we first went, oh, yeah, in about 6 months we'll be able to get him in. And after 6 months of living there and him being on the waiting list, we find out that he's nowhere close. They said it might be another year or so. And we were going to tough it out, but one night, me and the wife the kids were in bed, and we were sitting outside of our house that we were renting in Denham Springs, and I just kind of looked at my wife, and I said, look, I got something I need to tell you, and she's like, what's up? And I said, I hate it here. I said, I want to go back to Lafayette. And she said, oh, my God, me too. She said, I hate it here too. So we both hated it and just didn't want to tell each other because we both wanted to tough it out for our son. Well, we ended up finding this program in Lafayette that it sounded amazing, and they could take him right away. And it is amazing. We moved back from Baton Rouge in 2019. He's been in this program in Lafayette ever since, and he's doing so well. I mean, he's still nonverbal and stuff and still potty training and all that, but these people are amazing. I mean, they are doing wonders with him. He's really come a long way. So let's talk about my job situation when we moved back to Lafayette again, because we love Lafayette. We'll never leave again. We moved back here at a time where trying to get an HVAC job was not a good time. So I applied with several companies. I even went back to the company, because I worked for a couple different companies. I went back to a couple different companies, the two companies that I had worked for, and neither one of them had a spot for me. They both were full. One guy did hire me. He hired me. He gave me all my paperwork. We agreed on a salary and everything, and then he backed out on me and told me, "Oh, I can't afford you." And I'm not hearing back from any of these other companies. So I'm kind of starting to freak out. And my wife is too. She's like, "What are you going to do for a job?" And I said, "Well, I can always drive back and forth and go work with Dad." That was an option because my dad, wouldn't let me, he wasn't going to let us starve. So I called my dad and I said, "Hey, I can't find a job. We're back in Lafayette." And he's like, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." I said, I'm going to need to drive back and forth every day until I can get something. And he said, "Look, if that's what you want to do," he said, "you always got a spot over here." He said, "But why don't you start your own business over there?" And I said, "Well, I don't know anybody over here. I said, I'd like to do that, but I don't know anybody. I said, all I could do is put something on Facebook. And he said, "I'll tell you what," he said, I'll help you out financially. Because see, when I left my dad, I didn't sell him my half of the business. I didn't say, "Hey, you got to buy me out." I mean, I could have done that, but it was my dad. I mean, if it wouldn't be for him, I wouldn't have had none of that. I just gave it to him. So he said, "Look, I'll help you out financially. Start doing some advertising over there and get yourself rolling." So we literally started from nothing. I mean, he gave us a little bit of money, so we wouldn't starve to death. But I ran my first few calls out of my wife's minivan for like 3 or 4 days. And I put something on Facebook that day, and by the next day, my phone blew up. I put my story on there, on Facebook, and my phone started ringing off the hook like crazy. And I started getting calls, and I was like, wow. I literally ran them out of my wife's minivan for like 3 days. And then my dad let me borrow one of his trucks. He said, "Look, I got a truck over here that you can use. It didn't have his name on it or nothing until you can get you something." So it took me about 3 to 4 months to save up enough money to buy my own truck. And I really started rolling, man. Like I was rolling really, really good and doing really well. So I bought me a truck, and then I gave him his truck back. And yeah, I mean, so a lot of people say, "How'd you start your business?" The first time with Dad, that was nothing. He already had clientele. But the one here in Lafayette, I literally started this business from nothing. I ran my first 3-4 days of service calls out of my wife's minivan, which I hated. It was so unprofessional. And then I told my dad, "Hey, I'm really rolling, but all I got is the minivan." He's like, "Well, come pick up a truck, But how did I do it? It was all Facebook. Facebook and this other app called Nextdoor. That's how I got started on with this business. I went to the supply house, and I got me just a little bit of stuff, of a few capacitors, some contactors, some transformers, just your basics. I got me a jug of 410A, a jug of 22, contactors, capacitors, transformers. I got some fuses, I'm not going to sit here and name off everything, some relays and sequencers and stuff. And just the basics, and put them in that truck. And my dad said, "Go in the shop." I went to his house, pick up that truck, and he said, "Get you some copper pipe." He had some half rolls of copper, 7/8, 3/4, 3/8. He had some filter dryers. He said, "Take you a couple filter dryers, blah, 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 blah." And he helped me stock the truck too. So, yeah, I mean, I literally started from nothing. From just putting something on Facebook and working out of my wife's minivan for the first 3 to 4 days. It was tough. But these people in Lafayette are amazing. They gave me an opportunity. And that was almost 4 years ago. And here we are now, 4 years later. I have 2 trucks. One is parked because I fired my employee because he did a side job on me, a big side job, a change out. And but I have 2 trucks. I'm only running one right now. And I do have a helper that rides with me right now he's as needed, and he's okay with that. But during the summer, I'm so busy, he'll ride with me every day. But he's in a position to where he can afford to only work as I need him right now during the winter. And I'm thankful for that. It's hard to find somebody that, especially in today's world, that can only work when you need him. But he's in a position to where he's perfectly fine with that. But he also likes the summertime, where he can ride every day. So I'm very fortunate for that. And, but yeah, I just thought I'd get on here and share my story. That's how I started my business. To this day, I don't do much advertising. It's Facebook. It's word of mouth is my main. Nextdoor app. I don't have a radio ad. I do plan to get one, though. I do plan to get a radio ad. But I do have one billboard up here in the little town. Because, see, I don't actually live in Lafayette. I live in a little town right outside of Lafayette. And I have a billboard here in the little town that I live in. It's a small billboard. It's not expensive. It's not one of those huge digitals or a huge one on the interstate. This is a small billboard on a country road, just to, because I want people to know that I'm in the area. And so Facebook, the Nextdoor app, and that billboard. And I'm in the phone books. Oh, and I have a website. I'm on Google and all that. So, if people Google AC, I pop up. I get a lot of work off of Google and my website. But yeah, that's it. I mean, I started from scratch. And the reason that I did it is because I'm so used to doing my own thing. I just couldn't work for somebody. And mainly because when we came back to Lafayette, I couldn't find a job. I took a shot and it worked out. And knock on wood, it's been really good. And I have to, I have to thank God. I mean, without him, none of this would be possible, but it's been a blessing, and I'm very grateful, and I'm very thankful for everything, and I mean, my phone rings more and more every week. I'm picking up new people weekly, and most of it is, hey, John, this is Mr. Smith. I'm just making up a name. So-and-so told me to call you and said you did a really good job for them, and I'm having some issues, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, wow, and I get a lot of that. It's a lot of word of mouth, and that's the best advertisement. You do a good job for somebody and they recommend you to somebody else, that other person is going to use you. So, yeah, I'm very grateful and very blessed to be where I'm at. It's not easy starting like I did. But I love it. I love being in business for myself. I love being able to make my own schedule, do my own thing, especially with my wife and my 2 kids and having an autistic son. I need to be able to do my own thing and do things as I want. So if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll be glad to answer them. Also, you can text me at the number right here. And for those of you listening on the audio podcast, that number is 337-451-1252. 337-451-1252. You can text me about a future topic video, or if you have any questions about my business or how I started. Also, for you guys watching on YouTube, leave it in the comment section. I'll be good, and I'll try to write you back. And I want everybody to know that's watching on YouTube. Just because I don't answer your comments doesn't mean I don't read them, okay? Sometimes I just don't have time to answer them all. But I do read every single comment. So just because I don't answer it doesn't mean I'm not reading it. Keep that in mind. I will see your comment. I have an app. I have a YouTube app. It alerts me. I do see you guys' comments, and I appreciate them. So let me know if you guys have any questions about how I started or if I missed anything on this video. But I think that's a pretty good background of myself and how I started this venture and pretty much my whole HVAC life story. And then y'all know about my son. And but yeah, that's it. That's how I did it, man. And I'm very grateful to be where I am, and I'm blessed to be where I am. I'm by no means rich. You know, it's hard to get rich when you're in business. A lot of people think when you're in business, you're rich. Not true, but we're very fortunate that we live a comfortable life with this business. With that being said, guys, that's all I have for y'all on this one. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Thank y'all for watching. And for you podcast listeners, thank you for listening. Until the next one, we will see and talk to you guys on the next one. Thank y'all for watching, and thank you for listening.